It's a time for... which one shall I open? Oh, it's like my birthday with a package from China. So let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in this video we are going to take a close look at the HDMI solution for your PlayStation 2. I think a PlayStation 2 is absolutely a cool device to have, but connecting it is going to be quite a challenge, because nowadays a lot of televisions don't have, let's say, the connections anymore to hook this thing up. And that also applies with the Slim model. I came across on AliExpress this new, let's say, PlayStation 2 through HDMI connection cable. And I was quite curious what I were going to get. This was a very cheap one to buy, and when it's cheap, Wicked really loves it. But the question remains, is this thing worth picking up? Because I've reviewed a couple of these devices, and some are hit and miss, some are like pretty damn good, but some have like a really bad signal. It's all depending like how good of the quality is of the upscaling, and not even to forget like how is the signal that it's basically utilizing from the device itself. Another thing I'm curious about, we're going to get ourselves a micro USB cable that we need to use in the front, or the USB at the front. The question remains, is this something that we're going to need with every single system? But nowadays we do have a lot of options to play ourselves PlayStation 2 on your system, but one of those are, for example, the old school composite cable. And this composite cable, I just use it for a very long time, especially when I'm using it on my CRT. But nowadays television, some will have an option, some will not have it at all. But then we do have the option, the component cable. This is absolutely an improvement, depending of course how good the quality is. This is just a cheap China one, but we do have like a lot of ones that are very good quality. But again, not this cable isn't supported by every single PlayStation 2, and also not every single television does not even have this anymore. Or you need to get yourself another converter box. It's a little bit messy, but the point is, which kind of connection is he using? And how good is the quality? Another thing I've noticed with this, it also have the option to upscale it to 720 and 1080p. That's something we're going to try out, and we're just going to plug it in the original connection at the back. Okay, so we do have this option to play all of our favorite games through this PS2 to HD, or I want to say HDMI, but it says just HD. But the other thing I just wanted to try, I'm going to do a quick comparison. One of my favorite dongles, this is the PlayStation 2 to HDMI. Yeah, this thing has some caveats to it, but I made a full review about it. But just want to do a side-by-side comparison, just to see which one is better. And is this thing actually an improvement over the old one that I've reviewed a very long time ago already. But okay, so let's how to connect. Okay, at the back we're going to get ourselves the AV multi-out port that we're going to use in here. The first thing I'm noticing is like, you need to like force it in. The connection itself, it feels very cheap, so it's not a good thing. At the front we're going to find two USB ports. We can just use one for giving the sim some juice. And let's plug in the cable there. The next thing we need to do is plug in the micro USB cable. Be very careful with, otherwise you're going to ruin the connection. And the last part is of course plugging in the HDMI cable that comes from your television. Alright, next thing, let's give this some juice and let power it on. And let's see if it's going to be booting up. Already boots up in the FreeMac booth. And there we're going to get ourselves the connection that we want to have. But later on we'll hook it up to the capture card so you can see how good or bad the signal itself is. Okay, so let's go to the system configuration. And the reason why, I just wanted to show you this basically upscaling device. Like already my screen over here is not adjusted to the right measurements. But then we're also going to get the stuff that like, even if you're going to put it on a different output, it doesn't utilize it because it uses basically the RGB signal that comes from the system. And for the people wondering, yep, it also upscales with the PlayStation 2 Slim Edition. I just wanted to try it out, but of course the result is going to be exactly the same. Okay, so let's put this thing to the test and let's boot up a game. The next thing I wanted to do is mess around with the resolutions just to see what happens and how the signal will turn out on the television itself. And later on we're also doing the capture. And let's show you what are we going to get with this. So let's put it on pulse 60 Hertz, and here you can see over here at the top corner it says NTSC 1080p. Okay, so let's see if we can mess around with the settings over here. 720p. And here we can basically switch to the different resolutions if you want to. Okay, so next up let's go into the capture mode, otherwise you're not going to get the full experience of the quality of the cable itself. So let's do that first and let's get ourselves the Elgato. Okay, so this is what we're going to get when it comes to the quality of the image that comes from this HDMI upscaler. It's one of those many cheap, let's say, solutions that you can get for your PlayStation 2 nowadays, and this one is really cheap. but is it a good one? That is something you need to decide. So when you're looking at different, let's say, upscalers, we're having so many different solutions. It's a really cheap one, the 720 and 1080p, yeah, it's an option. It's fun that they added to it. The quality, it's already mentioned a couple of times in this video, it doesn't really utilize the best quality one it can get from the PlayStation 2, but there is a catch and a very positive side to this thing. Alright, so this is how it looks on 720p. And yeah, this is basically the best signal you can get out of this tiny little HDMI converter. Okay, next up, let's go to the 1080p. And basically there is nothing like of a big difference. So this is the audio quality what we're going to get between the resolutions, the tiny switch on the box. So let's go to the next game, Dead Alive number 2. It's more a beautiful game, three-dimensional image, and here we're going to get a better idea what are we going to get with the output signal and how good it looks. Okay, so let's take a close look at Outrun, a very cool fast racing game. So I'm still noticing like the image is quite washed out, and that's because we're using a not a really great input signal. Another downside is like this game utilizes 480p, and that is something we cannot use with the dongle itself. So that is a little bit of a bummer. So yeah, this is the best image that we're going to get from this device. So at the left we're going to get ourselves the new cheap dongle. They called it the PS2 to HD, and at the right we're going to get the old school one, the PS2 to HDMI, but the right one will utilize better signal input, and you can see it. If you're going to mess around with 1080p or 720p, it doesn't matter with Tekken, you can already clearly see the difference between the two signals. But there is a positive side to it, and what is it? When you're looking at the PlayStation 2 to HDMI, I personally really love this dongle, and it has an amazing signal output, as shown you in this video. But the downside to this dongle is that not every single PlayStation will support this thing, and some television don't recognize the weird signal that put this thing out. It's a little bit of a bummer, so that's more the caveat to the PS2 to HDMI. So depending if you're happy with the PS2 to HD, I think it has a positive side to it, but not the best signal output. I want to thank you for watching, consider subscribing, hit that little bell, become one of the biggest family, and I will see you in the next video.